Okay. Yeah, can you give this to Jayalakshmi? Okay, any doubts on the material covered in the last lecture? How about the homeworks? Are you all able to handle them? Okay, today we will introduce finite length equalizers. So far, whatever we discussed, the theory pertains to infinite length equalizers. So, when we actually implement these equalizers, we have to use a feed-forward filter that is finite in length in the case of linear equalizer. For DFE, both the feed-forward and feedback filters have to be finite in length. That's the preference, right? Okay. So, let's discuss the implementation of the linear equalizer. Okay. This is the model we started out with, right? It can be rewritten as signal yk. What are the dimensions here? L by 1. The impulse response P of m is a vector, where L is the oversample rate. Okay. And if at all you have multiple antenna system, you can simply collect the samples correspond to the antennas and stack them into a longer vector format. We will not discuss that. That's fairly obvious from now onwards. Okay. This system model we have, we'll make the assumption that channel impulse response P of k, this is the time index, right? And again, this P of k is a vector with L. Okay. We'll consider a system where the channel impulse response length, that is the non-zero components of this impulse response P of k, is confined to a fixed length. Okay? You may be wondering, well, if you use a Nyquist class of pulse, the pulse length is in principle, pulse duration is infinite in length. But in practice, you have to consider the components of this pulse that are only significant and are confined to a finite duration. So you will assume that the rest of the tabs will be weak enough. So therefore, P of k, which are the samples of the basically the transmit pulse channel convolved with the received pulse, right? It has P of k in T-space domain as a maximum length of 3 plus 1 samples. Okay, so this is of length V plus 1 samples. Of course, it's a vector, right? Each component has a maximum length of V plus 1 samples. Okay, then we can handle the finite length. That is essentially the channel length. Okay. With that in mind, now I can rewrite this y of k as P0, P1 all the way to PB. It's a vector multiplying with row vector multiplying with a column vector xk minus 1 all the way to xk minus b. Okay. This is basically P m xk minus m equal to 0 to b. So we have replaced this infinite summation with a finite summation. Then it can be written as a row vector multiplied with a.
Pm is L by 1.
Yes. Each one of them is L by 1. Vector, not a matrix. Okay, this is scalar, right? You can always multiply vectors. So essentially what we are saying is that The first row corresponds to the zeroth stream, and this impulse, and it has an impulse response, and that will be that row vector. That row will be multiplied with the data. Just visualize it as for L equal to 1, then it is easier to see. You can quickly explain L greater than 1. Okay. So the channel length is V plus 1, and the memory is V. The effective channel as observed at the receiver. And obviously there is additive noise N of K here. Okay. Now we'll consider a block of symbols starting with K, K minus 1, K minus 2, all the way to K minus a block of length NF, block of length NF. So you may be wondering why I could have started with K to K plus NF minus 1. You can develop the system in any way, in any manner you want, but we'll stick with K being the current sample, and then we just make the entire system cost. If you want to do an online implementation, it will be nice to see it as it. Okay. So this is a block of data you have observed. This is a block of data we have observed. So that means we have yk minus 1, yk minus 2, all the way to yk minus nf minus 1. Where nf is the block of samples you collect. Okay? Obviously, each of these elements yk are themselves column vectors of length L by 1. Okay, what we are going to do is we will construct big yk composed of yk minus 1, yk minus 2, all the way to yk minus nf minus 1. So we further collect all these received samples and arrange them in yet another column vector format. Now this column vector, what is the size? NF multiplied by L, because each of them itself is a column vector. Now we have even a bigger column. Okay. Well, this can be written as the first yk is P0, P1, all the way to PV, then a lot of zeros, x1, x2, well, not x1, it's xk, xk minus 1, xk minus 2, it goes on until xk minus nf plus b minus 1. We'll see that how we will end up with that. As far as the first yk is concerned, it is P0 to PV multiplied with xk to xk minus b. Okay? And the rest are zeros. So you'll get back yk. And the second element, yk minus 1, would be does it make sense? Okay? Yk minus 1 would be P0, xk minus 1, P1, xk minus 2, and so on. So we just incremented k by, substitute k with k minus 1. Then you will have to put a 0 and then shift the. Then you can write this, all these elements, and the bottom row would be, the last element would be PV, PV minus 1, all the way to P1, P0, and zeros else. So, well, the last element is yk minus nf minus 1. Okay? So, k is replaced with this last element, k is replaced k minus nf, k minus nf, k minus b should be replaced with k minus nf minus 1, right? Minus b. So that is k minus nf plus b minus 1. Okay? That is the last received sample yk minus nf minus 1. So we have collected a block of nf samples. Well, actually it is nf into L, but at symbol space it is a block of length nf. Nf into t, capital T is the time duration you will observe. Nf into capital T, T being singular. Okay, block. This block corresponds to nf into t seconds. T being second length. Okay, plus the usual thermal noise nk minus 1 all the way to nk minus nf minus 1. So now we have ended up with a vector matrix notation. Okay, when we consider it is a block. Is that fine? Okay, so now we can write the big Yk as some big P matrix P, xk being a big vector plus nk, and the dimensions are nf multiplied by L. P is the number of rows is L into nf, and the number of columns are nf plus b minus 1, it starts with 0, nf plus b. And this would be nf plus v rows and 1 column. So this P is a matrix of size L times nf by nf plus v. You may be wondering why this V comes into picture. Well, whenever there is a convolution involved, there is always this V comes into picture. Okay? Although the original is L equal to 1, if you are interested in nf received samples, but the data of interest must be nf plus v times 1. Okay. You may be wondering if we oversample by a durational factor 3/4 or something, can we construct an equivalent matrix? Yes, we can. Okay, we can construct such a matrix, but the only difference is that here the rows are simply shifted versions of each other. But if you have an irrational oversampling factor, then the rows will be time varying. Right? You will not have shifted. You will not consider that. And that's not optimal. Okay. Remember what was our system model? Y of t is infinite length case. We started with W of t and then Z of t or Z of k. Y of k convolved with W of k. This is 1 by L by 1, 1 by L, and this is a scalar. Similarly here, we'll consider Z of K, which is the feed-forward filter W. This W is different from this. It is a fixed W in fact. Will not write it as WK because this will be a vector. We'll see the dimensions. Multiplied by this matrix Y of K. Okay, at a given dimension K, we form this block of NF samples and we'll multiply with a feed-forward filter of length 1 into L times NF. And this would be L times NF by 1. And you can view this as, you can write it as, well, two filters, if you want to write it, one acting on the first oversample, the second one acting on the second oversample. You can write it, but we'll leave it. Well, you can already see that if Y of K has two elements, then you need a feed-forward filter correspond to each Y of K, two filters, one multiplying the first element, the second multiplying the second element. That's what we did here, right? W1 of K, W of K is W1 of K, W2 of K, all the way to WL of K. And that acts on Z of K equal to W of K convolved with Y of K, this is L by 1, this is 1 by L. Okay, here it looks a little different because we don't have convolution anymore because we have a fixed W. Okay, because we are interested in obtaining W of Z of K, but this Y of K will keep changing for every symbol you want to get in. So the convolution is rewritten in vector matrix form in a different way. That is equivalent to this operation. Okay, so this is like saying I am writing this as W of J by K minus J, J equal to 0 to NF minus 1. It's equivalent to something like this. Okay? For L equal to 1. If you have L equal to 2, then you will have to put some more than I. I mean I equal to 0 to L. It is equivalent to something like this. Okay, so you work it out. Okay, when you rewrite it, you'll understand. This operation is essentially equivalent to this. The only difference being this is a filter of length infinity, right? Whereas here it's a finite length filter, which is limited to length n. The length of the filter is n. If you have a filter of length n, you need to consider data of size n. Because you are convolving a block of data of length n with a filter of length. Okay. So, are you ready to make your decisions? In this case, from Zk, we were able to make decisions because this was represented as xk minus uk. Remember? But we don't quite get the same as, we'll get slightly different. What is this delta? Well, you have to understand this delta. This is an infinite length filter, right? And thus W of K for linear case, it has both causal components and non-causal components, right? It's more or less a two-sided filter. And Y of K is also an infinite length sequence possibly. Maybe a finite length doesn't matter. But your X of K, your decision is basically after filtering at that point, you'll end up with X of K, and whereas here we end up with X of K minus delta, where delta is the decision value. Why is that we have this decision delay parameter? Well, you have to look at it like this. You have a block of data, right? And if you filter with a filter of length sufficiently long length, this being your reference K, you're not going to get a decision on X of K here, you'll get somewhere in the middle, right? You get somewhere in the middle. You're filtered with the
long, uh, sufficiently long filter, W of k of length n of, let us say, L being 1, and you have data being causal, then you would make a decision about a symbol lying somewhere here. And it's a free parameter because it's part of the MMSE optimization process. So if the filter length is sufficiently large, you can simply choose delta as approximately as NF plus B by 2. That means somewhere in the middle. That makes sense. If you implement linear MMSE, the filter W of k is two-sided. If you take k as the current point k, you will always have filter tabs on this side and this side of equal length. Okay? But however, here we made the entire system causal, so we took the reference starting from here. Therefore, your decision will be, you will be making a decision about x of k that was transmitted, delta symbol. So delta is the decision delay of the system. Now, if you want to make a decision about a sample here, you will have to wait, capture delta more samples, and then do this operation. So that is the delay involved in this system. That's something you cannot avoid, right? This is the delay involved in entire system. That delay is approximately NF plus V. And if you can understand, the channel has an impulse response length V, the feed forward filter has an impulse response length NF, and the delay is approximately half of it. Because it's a two-sided filter and you're making a decision on it. Okay. If it is a match filter, you can also see that, right? If you have a receiver which uses a match filter, where would you make your decision? Somewhere in the middle, right? That we have seen in the match filter. Something similar. Okay. So, compared to the infinite length case, the new parameter that we are going to introduce is this delta. Except for that, the rest of the procedures are quite similar. Okay. Then you may ask, what is this delta? Well, you just have to optimize the equivalence performance for delta also. But if the filter length is sufficiently large, then you can simply fix delta to be there and proceed with the filter calculation. But for very short filters, this matters a lot. For very, very short filters, this matters a lot. You can optimize for delta. Okay. Now, we are pretty much ready to proceed with standard MMSE derivations. Okay. With this new system model, Zk equal to xk minus delta minus. Alternatively, Ek is equal to xk minus delta minus okay. And the mean square error for this system is okay. There is a mean square error. See, once you bring the entire system into vector matrix notation, things become quite simple. Okay, the derivations are easy to. What is it? In infinite length case. Well, there is no decision delay in infinite length equalizer. Okay, because well, actually, first of all, infinite length equalizer is something you cannot implement. It's something you can only do. Right. So it's not a realizable system. Therefore, if a system is not realizable, there is no issue of this. You can't even implement only analyze the performance.
They are only the ideal case.
Huh?
Previous ones only the ideal case.
Well, in a way, in an infinite length case, you have to wait infinitely long before you can implement. Right?
But in this, we are predicting up to the k values. We are not making it k minus delta. We have to wait for up to y k.
Yeah, that's what the delay is.
This we are
Delay.
predicting the future values.
So what it means is that see, the ISI spans multiple symbols. The invisible interference spans multiple symbols. Okay, and you have a block of data. To make a decision about any one xk, in principle, you have to observe infinitely long sequence. If the feed forward filter is infinitely long. Okay, because there is memory in the system, right? So, but we can't afford to do that. We have to use a finite length filter. That means you are going to pay a penalty. Whenever you use a filter of length, finite length, you will lose some SNR compared to infinite length. But if the filter length is sufficiently long, the penalty can be minimized or brought to very small. So, you have decided to use a filter of length enough, therefore, you will observe received samples over a block of length n. If this is where you are and you have observed enough samples, then there is no delay, right? You have just received your yk. But finally you will end up making a decision about a sample somewhere here k minus delta instance. Okay, then you can say that this is the delay incurred. Another way of looking at it is that you fix your k to be here. Okay, if you want to be more comfortable, you fix your k to be somewhere in the middle. Then you will observe up to k plus nf by 2, k minus nf by 2, and put some minus 1 just to make the whole line. Whatever it is, okay? Now you can make your decision about the current sample k by convolving the feed forward filter of length nf w with this all the yk. That means you have to take both the causal and non-causal component into account. Why is that? Well, the ASI is, in this case, you can make it two-sided. Okay, it's not the question of ASI being two-sided or one-sided. You have to capture energy. There is information. This component contains information, contains if you are interested in xk also appears here as ISI. So you have to observe the future values and equalize it so that the system is ISI. If you are interested in xk also appears in this received sample as ISI, and it also appears here as ISI up to at least 3 samples it is contained. Okay, but you have chosen the feed forward filter to be of length nf, therefore you have to at least observe up till nf by approximately. Actually, it turns out to be approximately nf plus b by 2. But if nf is large and b is small, then it is approximately nf. So in an infinite length case, the reason I am putting this extends to infinity, this extends to minus infinity. You make your decision right here, but what? You have to observe all these other samples. Okay. Well, anyway, there will be an exercise where you will implement this. When you implement it, you will probably understand. What is it? If impulse response, it really depends on what is the severity of the ASI. It's not just the length, but it's the severity of the ASI. But there's no measure for the severity of the ASI. But if even in a 2-tap channel, if the two taps are equally strong, you may need a feed-forward filter at least 3 times long. Usually in fading channels, if L is the length of the channel, we choose the feed forward filter at least 3 times the length of the input. 2 to 3 times the impulse response is something. But there is no clear-cut answer to that question. It's a design parameter. NF is a free parameter. It depends on the real channel characteristics. For different channels, the answer is different.
So in case of 0 ISI, what will be the value of NF? Will it be 0?
First of all, in a system with NF being finite, you will never have, you probably won't have 0 SI condition, right? Because you have a finite length filter. So there will be some residual ISI length. Okay? 0 SI exists only in the zero forcing case and when the filter length is infinite. But here you will always leave out some residual ISI. So finite analysis of finite length case is a little more involved compared to infinite length. But computations are much more easier in the sense implementation is easier. Computation may be a little more compared to infinite. Infinite case, you just deal with polynomials and right, you'll invert a polynomial. That's what happens. So the analysis that we do for the infinite length case is only a benchmark. It doesn't really give you a solution unless you take enough sufficiently long. Unless you take the solution for the infinite length case and simply truncate over a fixed NF, that will work as long as NF is sufficiently large. When NF is small, then the solution you get will not be MMSE optimal. This is MMSE optimal taking the finite lengthness into account. Right? The MMSE takes into account that the filter itself has finite length. So it's a slightly different optimization, and it also involves the decision. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, so from now onwards, it's not that difficult. System model is the one that you really need to understand. Calculation of W is fairly straightforward, I must say. You will invoke the orthogonality principle as usual. That is expected value of error EK is orthogonal to the input. Input is this big block YK Hermitian. Error is orthogonal to the input. Error is a scalar, YK is a big vector. Okay? Okay? And expected value of EK is xk minus delta minus zk. It is orthogonal to yk conjugate. So that implies expected value of xk into xk minus delta into yk conjugate is equal to expected value of zk is W into yk conjugate. That is equal to W into expected value of yk into yk conjugate. Okay. And the expected value of xk minus delta yk conjugate is xk conjugate. Well, okay. It's xk Hermitian, pk Hermitian plus nk Hermitian. That is equal to W into R by yk. R yk yk. Put k is to distinguish. R by yk. Okay. So I'll rewrite this here. Expected value of xk minus delta, that is a scalar, and this is xk Hermitian, that is a vector of length 1 into n plus v, nf plus v minus nf plus v multiplied by pk Hermitian, or well, it's not pk, it's just p. P doesn't have p is fixed, right? You don't have to put a k there. P Hermitian that is equal to w into r by y. R by y is expected value of yk Hermitian. Okay. And I guess I dropped expected value of xk minus delta into nk conjugate being 0. Right? As usual, I dropped that. So you have to calculate this. Okay. Remember what was xk? Xk minus delta, and xk was well, it was a column. Now it becomes a row. Okay. xk conjugate xk minus 1 conjugate all the way to xk minus delta conjugate xk minus delta, well, it goes on until xk minus nf plus v minus 1. Is that right? Huh? Yeah, that's right. That is equal to w into r by y. I will expand r by y in a moment. Okay. And there is an expectation. Expected value of k minus delta into xk conjugate is 0. They are both scalars. And they are IID. With the assumption that they are IID. So the first element will be 0. Xk minus delta into xk minus 1 conjugate is again 0. And xk minus delta into xk minus delta conjugate is, that's sigma x square. I mean, don't use Rx because they're not matrices. We're dealing with scalars. X bar and the rest of them are 0. And this is the length. Well, what is the length here? Nf plus nf plus v. Okay, because you start with 0, right? Okay. Into, well, actually there is a p conjugate here. Into p conjugate, that is equal to w into r by y. Okay? Now, this is the only part you have to be a little careful. After that, everything will smoothly follow. Okay. P was, I'll write P, okay? P0, P1, PV, all the way to all zeros. 0, P0, P1, all zeros. 0, 0, P0, P1, zeros. And P Hermitian would be P0 conjugate, P1 conjugate all the way to PV conjugate, and lots of zeros. 0, P0 conjugate, P1 conjugate, PV conjugate, also 0. It goes on like this. Okay? Now, take Ex bar out, then it is 0, 0, and I will call it 1 delta, P conjugate is equal to W into R by Y. Okay, 1 delta is a row vector with a 1 in the delta plus 1 position, right? Delta plus 1 position, right? Yeah. except the one in delta plus 1 position. Okay? You can leave it like that, but in fact, if you multiply 1 delta with this, 1 delta is 0, 0, somewhere 1, all zeros. With this, it's going to pick out delta first, delta plus 1 element here, right? Okay? And that turns out to be Ex bar 0, 0. Okay? Assume delta plus 1 is much larger than the memory B, so it's going to pick lots of zeros. Then it will pick the first non-zero element it will pick is PV star. And PV minus 1 star all the way to P1 star, P0 star, and again lots of zeros. So we'll have V non-zero elements and then the rest of them are 0. That is equal to W into R by Y. What is that? Oh, okay. V plus 1 is the channel impulse response. Thank you. You can also, okay, we'll talk about this. There is a reversal, see? Instead of P0 to PV, we have reversal. So you see, match filtering already have a reversal. When we do match filtering, impulse response will be time reversed and conjugated. So you can already see it's sort of a match filtering. We'll see that.
So after how many zeros it's going to pick PV star in the beginning?
We know that, right?
Is it after delta?
This is delta plus 1th position. Okay. Huh? Yeah, you think of them having not delta zeros. You can't say that, right? It depends on the impulse response line.
Depends on B.
If B is really long, and if it's comparable to the feed-forward filter length, well, actually you don't want that to happen, right? You assume that NF is, well, let's make this assumption. NF is U plus 1. That means at least a 0, 1, 0. Okay. We can work it out. Okay. Let me see. No, you can't really say like that. See, it's not necessarily the middle, first of all, you have to see. It really depends on what delta is. Delta could be anything. You can be right here. Huh? Depending on where you put it. So you can't say that there are equal number of zeros on either side. I've just shown it like that. Okay, we can work it. I mean, if NF is very, very large, there will be approximately equal number of zeros. Approximately. Okay, let's proceed. We can figure that out. Okay, what about the RYY? RYY is expected value of YK Hermitian. YK is P xk plus nk and the same Hermitian. That is equal to pk e expected value of xk Hermitian pk conjugate plus expected value of nk Hermitian. that is equal to Pk Rxx Pk Hermitian plus Rn. Well, the expressions are awfully similar to the infinite length case, but actually these are matrices. But of course, you can always draw connections between infinite length case and finite length case by letting nf tends to infinity. In fact, solutions will converge when nf tends to infinity. Okay, this is fine. Rxx no is independent of delta because there is no delta here, right? Huh? And Rxx will assume it to be Ex bar into I. Okay, then it will become Ex bar Pk star plus R. Okay. And Rnn will be L times sigma n square into identity if noise is white or AWGN. Okay. If the channel is, if not, you have to compute that and plug it in. If at all you have co-channel interference, then there will be a specific structure for RNN. You have to bring it in. Okay. That they will get a homework exercise on that. Okay. We'll consider the case where noise is white and not white. That makes a lot of sense. Well, we have the solution for the feed forward filter. What is the solution? W is equal to 1 delta P star P star Ex bar plus Rnn whole inverse. Okay? There is one more term here. There is Ex bar here. And if you take Ex bar inside, 1 delta P conjugate P conjugate plus 1 over Ex bar okay. Whole inverse. Okay, this is the direct form of MMSE, and if you use the matrix inversion lemma, you will get Rnn inverse P conjugate P star Rnn inverse P plus Rnn whole inverse 1 delta star. Well, actually there is a 1 delta star here. Okay. Is this 1 delta star? Okay. Let me just check this. This is Rxx inner 1 over Ex bar. Okay, please. This is identity. Is that right? Okay, that makes sense. Okay, this is one direct form, this is the indirect form. Okay, the reason is that you have to pay attention to this. There's a big difference in computational complexity between this and this. If at all this is identity, scale identity, the dimension of this scale identity, the dimension of P star P is LNF, P star is, size of this matrix is LNF by LNF. You're going to invert LNF by LNF? No. You're going to invert P star, P star, LNF, yeah. Huh? Yeah, LNF by. Whereas here you're going to invert P star P, which is NF plus V by. Okay. So which is L equal to 2 and NF is much higher than V. Which one has lower computational complexity? This one. Okay. So here you can treat it as a match filter followed by some MMSE section. Here noise whitening filter, match filter, some MMSE section, and then there is this one delta which picks suitable elements. Okay? And W is a row vector. So we have a full solution here for the MMSE filter. We still have to compute the mean square error, which I leave it as a homework exercise. Okay? And that will turn out to be, I'll leave it as a homework exercise. You can refer to the, you calculate the mean square error. Okay? Now, delta we chose it as a decision delay. Okay? You can also optimize it for the decision delay. You can also find the delta of. One way is you just try for different values of delta, or you find by defining actually. But if the filter length is long, you just put it somewhere in the middle enough to see. Okay. So I'll give you an exercise to implement a linear equalizer. This is how you will implement, not using the infinite solution. That will only be used to benchmark the MSE. And you will also have bias here in this case. You have to remove the bias. Okay. All that procedure is very easy. So I want to implement the both biased and unbiased LMMSE for a given channel. And we will only work with fixed channel as well as different selective channels. What we will do is we model the channel as L taps, equal variance, 0, complex version, and that's how we model the channel. That's very quick. Then we'll calculate, we'll measure the performance of the equalizer through simulation and analysis to get MSE. Okay? So you can find a similar derivation for MMSE DFP, it's a little bit more and more. Okay? There are many different types of MMSE DFPs that you can possibly implement. Okay? One is the one given in this book, and the other one by Al-Dahir and Shafi. They have a paper on identity transactions and communications, I guess. It uses Cholesky factorization. There are solutions given in this book doesn't use Cholesky factorization. So you can use either one of those for MMSE. Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
here what is the design criteria for P? Choosing the length of
Which one?
the FIR filter.
Which one?
V.
V is the memory of the channel. It's given to you.
How to
No, that's not design. That's impulse response. That's given to you. Known. By the way, the impulse response is always known. P is known. P0, P1 through PV are known. That is just given to you. That's not. I mean, if you have to truncate it for a long pulse, then you will have to truncate it suitably. Okay. But usually it's known. So, in the design of these equalizers, the the channel impulse response is given. There are other set of equalizers called adaptive equalizers, where you don't know the impulse response of the channel. P is not known to you, but you still have to design W without knowing the channel impulse response. Then they use algorithms called LMS and right, adaptive algorithms like LMS. Sometimes you can also use Kalman filter type of approaches. Okay. Shall we stop here? The next homework will be based on this, so you have to turn in the previous two homeworks. Then only I will give you the. Please stick to the deadline.